Bolt fam, I apologize for the delay, but the latest episode of the Electric Edge podcast is here. I've been posting on YouTube. I've been on vacation, so I've been pretty limited with when I can record. Wanted to enjoy some time away from work and all the other stressors that come through with life. But I'm back home. I got back yesterday from my vacation. I wanted to originally record yesterday, but just didn't work out with getting back home, doing errands, getting the house back in check, and then just being exhausted from traveling. So I do apologize for the delay, but we got the episode up today. Today is August 4th. So in this episode, we're going to go through the Hall of Fame game. We're going to touch on Antonio Gates going into the Hall of Fame. We're going to touch on Keenan Allen's visit to the Chargers facility and a possible reunion. And we're also going to touch on the news that came out about Denzel Perryman. And I'm going to give you my opinion on that. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to the Electric Edge podcast on YouTube. Follow me on X at Electric Edge Pod. And be sure to engage with some of my content. Leave me a comment, like some of my posts. I try and respond to every single person who reaches out. I love interacting with Chargers fans, so if you haven't already, leave me a comment below. Would love to hear your feedback and input. So, without further ado, and I won't delay anymore, let's get this episode started. All right, so the Hall of Fame game, the Chargers dominated the Lions 34-7. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead. You know, in the first quarter, you had the kickoff return, which was fumbled. The Chargers recovered, scored. That touchdown pass to Will Dissly from Trey Lance. A lot of good things happen in this game. It's very positive. I think I had mentioned last week, I think Trey Lance is going to be QB2 when it's all said and done, and he played like QB2 on Thursday. I think Harbaugh also likes that he has those similarities to when Harbaugh coached the 49ers and you had Alex-Smith and Colin Kaepernick. Now, I don't think whatsoever that Trey Lance is going to steal a spot from Justin Herbert, but I think he likes having that dual threat quarterback on the roster, and I think Trey Lance can be that guy for the Chargers. So let's talk a little bit about the game and some of the highlights from it. Some of the good and the bad. The Chargers had 3 first-half takeaways. Trey Lance threw for 2 touchdowns. One was to Lambert-Smith. The other one was to Will Dissly. Vidal had 2 rushing touchdowns. And the Chargers had 5 total takeaways on Thursday, which was great. The Bolts set the tone early, right from kickoff. Linebacker Caleb Williams forced a fumble, and it was recovered by Kendall Williamson. From that play, the Chargers took over from the 28-yard line, and they scored in 5 plays with a pass from Trey Lance to Will Dissly. So let's take a look at, this was the kickoff here. There you go, forced fumble, boom, Chargers recover. That's a great way to set the tone and to come out and score in 5 plays later. Also in this game, you had Nico Reed. So Nico Reed was an undrafted free agent they signed out of Oregon. He's been doing very well in camp. He had a 60-yard pickoff against Kyle Allen. He almost went all the way. I think he was stopped short of like the 5 or 6 yard line. But he's been getting praise. So that's a player to watch this week at training camp and also on Sunday's game against the Saints at home. So let's take a look at that play. There you go. Pick, jump the route. And then that play set up Vidal's 2-yard touchdown run. First running play, he almost got in the end zone. I think he got stopped at the 2. And then the second play, he ran it in and had a second effort attempt into the end zone. Vidal looked really good on Thursday, so that's another name to watch out for. The Chargers drafted him last year out of Troy. The Chargers have a lot of depth at the running back position, which I think is going to be part of their offensive scheme this year, where they're going to run the ball a lot. They get fresh legs in there. Vidal is one of those backs that can catch and run. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic unfolds as the season begins between Hampton, Harris, Vidal, and also Hassan Haskins, too, which is a Harbaugh guy. Like I had mentioned, the Chargers had 5 takeaways on Thursday. Nico Reed had 1. Tony Jefferson had a pick in the end zone. We had a muff punt. We had the fumble on the kickoff. And then there was another pick towards the end of the game. Miles Purchase ripped the ball away from the Lions wide receiver. I'm not sure. He doesn't say his name here, but he just took it out of his hands and ran the other way. So great job by the Chargers defense. I mean, these are a lot of second string guys. So that tells me a lot as to what this first line defense is going to look like going into week 1. So let's just go through some of the scoring plays. So first quarter, you had the touchdown pass from Trey Lance to Will Dissly. Vidal had a 2-yard run. In the second quarter, the Lions scored their only touchdown. KLS had a catch in the second quarter, a 15-yard touchdown pass. Baker had a couple kicks in the third quarter, and then Vidal sealed the deal with another 2-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter. So let's go through the 5 players that stood out in the Hall of Fame game, and I'll tend to agree or disagree. So 1, Lambert-Smith, 1,000,000%. He had 2 catches, 43 yards, and a touchdown. His first catch, he got open down the sideline. Trey Lance just threw it in his breadbasket. Great play. And then the second catch he had was a little route that went in. Trey Lance hit him on the run, and he scored in the end zone. I think KLS is, as the preseason goes on, I think he's going to become a big part of this offense. He may be wide receiver 4, but that doesn't mean he's not going to get some production this year, especially with how many weapons this offense is looking to have. I think he's in for a great rookie season. So let's take a look at his touchdown catch. There you go. Boom. And right into the end zone. He's earning his name, Big Play Dre, between the catches he's making at training camp and then Thursday's Hall of Fame game. Pretty cool. Nico Reed. So like I mentioned, he's an undrafted free agent. He came out of Oregon. He's been playing well in training camp. And then Thursday night, he had that 60-yard pick. So it's good to see that the Chargers have found some more youth in that secondary. I mean, last year they drafted, was it Cam Hart, and they had Terheap Still. This year, I think they drafted R.J. Mickens. I think they drafted another safety, and then, find people that are undrafted free agents who want to prove themselves. So great to see that there's some depth in that secondary, and these rookies are producing. So it'll be something to keep an eye on as training camp continues, and then also as the preseason continues in actual gameplay. Okay, Trey Lance. I agree. Trey Lance played great. Granted, it's against second-string players from the Lions. He played some time last year with the Cowboys towards the end of the year, but he played very well. I mean, he was 13 out of 20, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 114.6 quarterback rating. I'll take that all day long. I think having Harbaugh as his coach, Justin Herbert as a mentor, and having all those supporting pieces of that coaching staff, you never know if, God forbid, Herbert gets hurt again. You want someone that can do the job, and I think Trey Lance played great, but we have to see how he plays possibly on Sunday. Don't know who the starter is going to be for Sunday yet, if it's going to be Heineke or Trey Lance, but that's something to keep an eye on out as training camp progresses as well. And then what decisions are made as preseason games finish. Kamani Vidal, another one, played great, ran really hard. The touchdown runs I saw were, second effort touchdowns. He finished as the team's leading rusher. He had 9 carries for 37 yards and 2 touchdowns. It said the Bolts rotated running backs most of the night, but Vidal made most of the goal line carries, with both of his scores coming from 2 yards out. He also displayed his burst and explosive play ability, taking a carry-on third down play for 16 yards on a drive that eventually led to points. It was a good night overall for the backs as the Chargers finished the night with 121 rushing yards as a team. If the Chargers can run the ball that effectively week to week, they will be a very hard team to beat. It remains to be seen if that's going to happen, but Omarion Hampton played, I think, 1 drive on Thursday, and he had 2 hard runs. So I think that this running back core is young with that one veteran presence of Najee Harris. But if they could run consistently for 100 yards a game, this Chargers team is going to be very hard to beat this year. I think this is the last player. Yeah. The last player they highlighted is Caleb Murphy. Caleb Murphy was the one who knocked the ball free on special teams. So the article says Murphy was on it from the opening kickoff of the game and notched a tackle that helped force the fumble recovered by Kendall Williamson after beating his blocker and a clean one-on-one opportunity with the returner. It was a sign of things to come for Murphy, who was just as disruptive the rest of the game on the defensive side as well. The 25-year-old outside linebacker finished the night with 2 tackles as well as 1 for a loss, but had a number of pressures and flashed rushing the passer. Arguably his best rep of the night came early in the fourth quarter with the Lions facing a third down. He executed his rush to perfection, ripping through the right tackle for the pressure, forcing Hendon Hooker to step up into a sack by Terrell Edwards. Murphy has had a good camp so far and made the most of his first live action in the game as he makes his case in a room with a lot of competition. So that's what Chargers.com has is the 5 players. I think they're pretty accurate on it. But I think that we're going to check out the PFF scores on players too. Like I said, there's news of Antonio Gates. The Hall of Fame game was for induction of Antonio Gates in the Hall of Fame. Antonio Gates is the first ever player inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame who never took a college football snap. I think that is simply amazing. It's a testament to his work ethic, and it just shows that if you, in his case, if you have the size and you're athletic enough, you can make your dreams come true. So that's pretty awesome. This is PFF.com. We're going to go through their graded scores for Thursday night's game. So I'm only going to touch on Chargers players. We don't care about Lions players. All right, highest graded offensive players. KLS stood out at a 90. Jamie Salyer had a great game at 81.6. Tucker Fisk, 79.9. And the Chargers running backs, Kamani Vidal was 78.8. Hassan Haskins was 76. And Brendan Rice finally got some action. Look at that. 73.6. Very cool. Also, Brendan Rice has had some action in training camp over the weekend. So, we've been kind of waiting for some Brendan Rice signings. He didn't play at all last year. So maybe it's a sign of things to come for him as well. Okay. Highest graded players on defense. Tony Jefferson, 95.2. Nico Reed, 92.9. Miles Purchase, 91.7. Eric Rogers, 91.3. Kendall Williamson, 76. Amani Johnson, 75. And Kylan Guidry, 4.8. Okay, let's talk about highest graded rookies. So Nico Reed leads the charge, followed by Miles Purchase, Eric Rogers. It's pretty cool to see the first three highest graded rookies are all corners. Tells you once again the depth that the Chargers have in that secondary this year. Then followed by KLS, you have Kylan Guidry, Terrell Edwards, and then their third round pick, Jeremy Caldwell, at 70.6. So that's pretty awesome. Also switching back to Bolts from the Blue, because it does touch on Trey Lance. Okay. This quarterback Trey Lance excelled, earning a career best 74.3 passing grade. He was wise in decision making and finished with zero turnover worthy plays. Lance finished the game going 13 for 20 for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. Zion Johnson also played center on Thursday, and he finished with a 76.8 in pass protection, but struggled in the run blocking, earning a 67.4. Another thing to keep an eye on, especially playing the Saints on Sunday, if the Chargers once again start Zion at center to see what he has. I'm still undecided. I thought maybe he would be the starting center, but that remains to be seen. It's something to keep an eye on who they continue to rotate, whether Brad Bosen plays on Sunday or not, and who ends up winning that starting job week 1. Let's see, we talked on the secondary. The lowest grade defenders for the Chargers were Josh Fuga at 29.9, Deshaun Hand, which they signed in the offseason, at 30.5, and Chris Hinton at 30.5. Safety RJ Mickens, who's a rookie, earned the highest tackle grade of any Charger with an 82.7, likely due to a touchdown-saving tackle on running back Craig Reynolds in the open field. So it's great to see that there's a lot of positives coming from the rookies on this team. All right, let's touch on Keenan Allen visiting the Chargers. This was on Saturday. According to NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, free agent wide receiver Keenan Allen visited the Chargers. So Keenan Allen went on his live stream on Twitch. I think someone asked him, how did the meeting go? He said it went well. It'll be interesting to see this week if news comes out that the Chargers do sign him. It'll also be interesting to see how he fits into the mix of wide receivers. He's going to be a starter. Ladd McConkey basically took his spot last year. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits back into this offense if he does wind up signing with the Chargers. No news has come out since Saturday on it. People on X have put out he is signing with the Chargers, but nothing official coming out from the team. But I think this week we'll find out if he actually does sign with the Chargers or he maybe has meetings elsewhere with some other teams. That we'll keep an eye on that news as it comes out. Okay, the next storyline for the weekend was that Denzel Perryman was arrested on a felony firearm charge. I have some thoughts on this. If you read the headline, it makes it seem like he's a bad guy and he was doing something illegal. Unfortunately, in the state of California, their gun laws are outrageous and they're very extreme, let's put it that way. In any other state, let's say in the state of Nevada or Arizona, the guns he had are legal. He had them in his trunk. He was going to a gun range. He did nothing wrong. But California has some strict firearm laws. Also, there's some organizations that have now gotten involved. One of them was Firearms Policy Coalition, that they had been fighting the state of California on very similar charges on normal everyday people who get arrested for this. But because of the profile of Perryman and he plays in the NFL, it's kind of brought more attention to what that organization's been fighting in the state of California. There's not a lot of information that's come out about it, and I'll keep an eye on what does come out. I think he has a hearing on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. But it's very unfortunate. He's exercising his Second Amendment right, but the state of California is very extreme with its gun laws. It said that in one of the things I read, non-compliant gun, and that's very vague because there's a lot of regulations in California where you can't have certain things on certain weapons. But like I said, they're legal in other states like Nevada and Arizona and Utah, Montana, Idaho. But very unfortunate. I've put this out on X. He did nothing wrong. I also put out a link to Firearms Policy Coalition and their statement on it. I'll attach that link in the description if you want to take a look at it as well. But very unfortunate. Hopefully this gets resolved within the week and it's just a minor hiccup in the road. I don't see this being a major distraction, but it does bring the headlines. A Chargers linebacker gets arrested with assault weapons. And I'll leave it at that. Last but not least, this weekend was about Antonio Gates going into the Hall of Fame. Really cool that he acknowledged, all the quarterbacks he played with on the Chargers. I think he mentioned Doug Flutie was his first touchdown catch, Drew Brees, and then also Philip Rivers, who was a quarterback for a big chunk of his career. So it says Gates spoke for nearly 25 minutes on Saturday afternoon and hardly mentioned himself. Instead, the Hall of Famer chose to spread a message of love and gratitude to everyone who helped him reach the stage he was standing on. You see, football is the ultimate team game, and I didn't get here alone, Gates said. I'm standing here today because of people who poured into me. There are some videos of LT crying, Philip Rivers crying. Philip Rivers had on sunglasses trying to hide his tears. So Gates said, Philip Rivers, we had on the field was special. You weren't just a guy throwing the ball. You were the heartbeat of the offense. Your fire, your passion, your IQ is unmatched. You saw the game the same way. You trusted me and I trusted you. And that trust led to some of the best moments in my career. I always knew where that ball was going, Phil, and I always knew it was coming with a purpose. Philip Rivers, it was an absolute pleasure to have played with you. Rivers and Gates connected for 89 total touchdowns, which is the second most by a quarterback tight end duo in NFL history. That's pretty cool. So the third point they talked about was a message for Brew. So it says, if you're unfamiliar with Tim Brewster's name, just know the former Chargers tight end coach played a pivotal role in getting Gates to the Bolts. It was Brewster who attended Gates' first NFL workout and was the only NFL tight end coach in attendance. Brewster coached Gates to try football and signed with the Chargers, the undrafted free agent out of Kent State. And the rest is history. So Gates said, Tim Brewster saw something special in me. He was pretty sure I could make the team and was adamant that I'd be an all-pro in 3 years. You see, the thing is, when switching sports or careers for that matter, it can be life-changing. The unexpected are often the most powerful ones because completely redirect your life if you're ready to take advantage and you're ready for the opportunity. So that's pretty cool. It just goes to show you, someone may see something in you that you don't see in yourself. If you take a leap of faith and take advantage of it, you never know what may happen. And in this case, Antonio Gates becomes, in my opinion, the greatest tight end ever and is now in the Hall of Fame. So he also thanked his roots in the city of Detroit and then talked about his family. And I know he mentioned his father too in his speech. So well-deserved for Antonio Gates. I met him last year at one of the Charger games. He was in the SoFi Lounge and probably it was, I would say, him and Lorenzo Neal. Gates especially, though, there was a line waiting to meet him, and he waited for every single fan he could. He signed autographs for every fan that wanted one. He took pictures with every fan who wanted one. One of the nicest players I've ever met. I'll have to post a picture I haven't already on YouTube and on X, but I look really, really small compared to him. I'm only 5'3". He is a massive dude, but one of the nicest guys I ever meet. So well-deserved to Antonio. Chargers legend. I can only hope that Oronde Gadsden has a fraction of his ability on that offense. So congrats to him. A great weekend for the Chargers. A lot of momentum going into this week and into Sunday, playing the Saints at home at SoFi. So that's all I have for you today in this episode. Like I said, I'm sorry for a little bit of delay. Getting back from vacation is always rough, but the episode is here for you, so hopefully you enjoy. Also, if you haven't noticed, I have an Electric Edge hat that I got made. I sell them on my website. If you want to help support the show, please feel free to buy one. The link for my website will also be in the description. And as always, if you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe to the Electric Edge podcast. Follow me on X at Electric Edge Pod. And as always, go Chargers and bolt up.